My beloved child, I know you've been wondering why heaven has seemed so quiet. You've searched for answers, waited for signs, and questioned whether I was still near. But I have never left your side. Even in the silence, I have been writing a chapter of your story that you could not yet see. Stay with me for these next few moments and let me reveal what my silence has truly been doing in your life. Before you begin my prayer, tell me where you come from in this world, so that we may all pray together. My beloved child, how many times have you whispered the words, "God, where are you?" Perhaps not with your lips, but deep within your heart. You woke up one morning hoping today would finally be different. You prayed with tears in your eyes, expecting an answer, a sign, a door to open, or at least a small reminder that I was listening. But instead, all you seemed to find was silence. Day after day you waited, and because nothing appeared to change, you slowly began believing the silence meant I had walked away. I understand why you feel that way. Human hearts often mistake silence for absence. From the time you were young, you learned that love usually speaks loudly. People reassure you with words, celebrate with applause, and comfort with visible gestures. So when heaven becomes quiet, it is natural for your mind to wonder whether I have stopped paying attention. But, my child, my ways have never been limited to what human eyes expect. If my words are speaking to your heart today, let your response be simple. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and continue walking this journey of faith with me. Think about a small child learning to walk. At first, a loving parent holds both hands tightly, guiding every uncertain step. But eventually, the parent gently lets go. To the child, that brief distance may feel frightening. The child may even think, "Why did you leave me?" Yet the parent has not abandoned the child for even a second. Those loving eyes remain fixed on every movement, ready to catch them if they fall. The parent's silence is not rejection. It is confidence that the child is becoming stronger. In the same way, there are moments when I allow you to take steps without immediately removing every obstacle in front of you. Not because I enjoy watching you struggle, but because I know what you are capable of becoming. If I answered every prayer the instant it left your lips, if I solved every problem before it touched your life, your faith would never have the chance to grow deeper than your circumstances. Consider a student sitting in an examination room. During the lessons, the teacher explains, encourages, corrects mistakes, and answers questions. But when the examination begins, the classroom becomes quiet. The teacher does not speak because the teacher has disappeared. The teacher remains present, watching carefully, believing the student can apply everything that has already been learned. Silence in that moment is not neglect. It is part of the learning process. Many times you assume, "My silence means I have stopped working." In reality, I am often working where your eyes cannot reach. While you are looking for visible change around you, I am quietly transforming what is happening within you. Before I change your situation, I often change your heart. Before I move the mountain, I strengthen the person standing before it. Before I open the next door, I prepare you to walk through it with wisdom, humility, and gratitude. Remember Elijah. After witnessing extraordinary miracles, he fled into the wilderness exhausted, discouraged, and convinced he was alone. He expected me to reveal myself through overwhelming power. There was a mighty wind, but I was not in the wind. There was an earthquake, but I was not in the earthquake. There was a fire, but I was not in the fire. Then came a gentle whisper, and there I was. My presence had not disappeared. It simply came in a way Elijah was not expecting. Before we continue, if you believe I am still working in your life, even when you cannot yet see it, write Amen below. Let that simple word become your declaration of trust today. How often do you search only for dramatic signs while overlooking the quiet evidence of my faithfulness? You pray for a miracle, yet fail to notice the strength that carried you through another difficult day. You ask for a clear answer, but overlook the unexpected peace that settled over your heart. You wait for heaven to shake the earth while missing the quiet courage I placed inside you one ordinary morning. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that faith depends on visible evidence. If they receive the promotion, then I must be good. If the relationship works out, then I must be near. If healing comes quickly, then I must have heard their prayers. But genuine faith does not begin when every answer becomes visible. It grows when you continue trusting me, even while the answers remain hidden. There are seasons when I intentionally remove the noise surrounding you because noise often distracts you from my voice. When every plan succeeds, every opportunity appears, and every desire is immediately fulfilled, it is easy to become dependent on blessings instead of becoming dependent on me. But in the quiet places, where there is nothing left to hold except my promises, your roots begin reaching deeper than you ever imagined possible. So the next time you find yourself asking, "God, where are you?" pause before concluding that I am absent. Ask instead, "Lord, what are you teaching me that I could never learn if everything happened the way I wanted?" That simple question can transform frustration into faith. It can turn waiting into worship. It can help you recognize that my silence has never been empty. It has always been full of purpose. My child, remember this truth. Silence often changes you before it changes your circumstances. I am shaping your character long before I reveal the outcome. I am strengthening your faith long before you see the breakthrough. What feels like stillness today may become the very foundation that allows you to stand firm tomorrow. But if I have never abandoned you, if my silence has always had a purpose, then why does waiting still hurt so deeply? That is what I want to reveal to you next. My beloved child, if my silence has never meant that I abandoned you, then I know the next question rising in your heart. Lord, if you are still with me, why does waiting hurt so much? I understand that question because I have heard it from countless hearts throughout every generation. Waiting has always been difficult, not because I designed it to be cruel, but because the world around you constantly teaches you that everything worth having should happen immediately. You live in a world where answers appear within seconds, packages arrive overnight, and success stories flood your screen every single day. Every swipe shows someone celebrating a new achievement, a new relationship, a new home, a new opportunity. Without realizing it, your heart begins measuring its own journey against moments carefully selected from someone else's life. Then, almost quietly, impatience begins to grow. You start asking yourself, why not me? What am I doing wrong? Why does everyone else seem to be moving forward while I remain in the same place? My child, impatience rarely begins because of your circumstances. It often begins because comparison convinces you that you are falling behind. That is one of the greatest dangers of this generation. You are surrounded by a culture that celebrates speed more than wisdom. It tells you that faster is always better, bigger is always better, earlier is always better. Yet my kingdom has never operated by those rules. I have never measured your life by how quickly you arrive, but by who you become along the journey. Look at Abraham and Sarah. I gave them a promise that seemed impossible. Year after year they waited. Their hair turned gray, their bodies grew weaker. Every passing birthday appeared to mock the very promise I had spoken. If they had judged my faithfulness only by the calendar, they would have concluded that I had forgotten them, but I had not forgotten. I was preparing a miracle that no human effort could claim as its own. Now think about Joseph. As a young man, I gave him dreams of leadership and purpose. If Joseph had expected those dreams to unfold immediately, he would have been crushed by what came next. Instead of a throne, he found a pit. Instead of honor, he experienced slavery. Instead of recognition, he sat alone inside a prison. To anyone watching from the outside, it appeared that every promise had been canceled. But I had not denied my promise. I was shaping the man who would one day carry it. Imagine if Joseph had become ruler while he was still the proud, inexperienced young man who boasted about his dreams to his brothers. Power without maturity would have destroyed him. Influence without humility would have made him dangerous. Before I elevated his position, I transformed his character. This is something many people struggle to understand. They assume delay means denial. They think that if the answer has not come yet, then the answer must be no. But my child, many times what you call delay is simply preparation taking place where your eyes cannot see. Consider a tree. You celebrate the branches because they are visible. You admire the fruit because everyone can see it. But long before fruit appears, something much more important is happening beneath the surface. The roots are growing deeper, stronger, and wider. No one applauds the roots. No one posts pictures of them. Yet without deep roots, even the healthiest looking tree will fall when the first great storm arrives. Your life is no different. While you pray for visible blessings, I am often strengthening the invisible foundation that will one day sustain those blessings. If I place certain opportunities into your hands today, would your heart be ready to carry them? If I fulfilled every dream immediately, would you still depend on me tomorrow? Sometimes the greatest expression of my love is not giving you what you ask for today, but preparing you to receive it without losing yourself later. That is why waiting is never empty when you walk with me. Waiting teaches patience, not the passive patience of simply counting days, but the steady confidence that my promises do not expire because time passes. Waiting teaches humility because it reminds you that you are not the author of your own timeline. You cannot force seasons to change before their appointed time, just as no farmer can command fruit to appear the day after planting a seed. Waiting also teaches dependence. When everything arrives exactly when you expect it, it is easy to trust your own plans. But when your schedule falls apart, you begin discovering that your greatest security has never been your plans. It has always been my presence. Perhaps you are praying today for a breakthrough that seems painfully slow. Maybe you are waiting for healing, for restoration in your family, for meaningful work, for financial stability, or simply for a reason to believe again. I am not asking you to pretend that waiting is easy. Even those I loved deeply wrestled with long seasons of uncertainty. What I am asking is that you do not confuse the length of the journey with the absence of my love. Instead of asking, Lord, why are you making me wait? Begin asking, Lord, what are you building inside me while I wait? That single question changes everything. It shifts your eyes from frustration to formation. It helps you recognize that every season has purpose, even when the purpose is not immediately visible. One day you will look back and realize that the waiting you once feared became the place where your faith grew strongest, your heart became gentlest, and your trust became deepest. The answer you desired was important, but the person you became while waiting was even more valuable. Yet there is another misunderstanding that causes even deeper pain. Many people begin believing that if life becomes difficult, it must mean I am angry with them. They mistake loving correction for rejection and discipline for punishment. Let me show you why those two things are completely different. My beloved child, there is a lie that quietly finds its way into many hearts, even among those who sincerely love me. It rarely announces itself with loud words. Instead, it whispers in moments of disappointment, loss, and pain. It says, God must be angry with you. After hearing that lie often enough, many begin to believe it. Perhaps you have believed it too. When life becomes difficult, you search your memory for every mistake you have ever made. You replay old failures. You remember words you wish you had never spoken. You think about opportunities you wasted and prayers you neglected. Then you connect your present suffering to your past imperfections and conclude, this must be God's punishment. My child, that is not how I see you. The enemy knows that if he cannot separate you from my love, he will try to distort your understanding of my heart. He wants you to see me as a distant judge who is always waiting for you to fail, rather than as a loving father who is committed to helping you grow. That is why he fills your mind with accusation instead of hope. Think about Job. Job experienced unimaginable loss. His wealth disappeared. His children were gone. His health failed. Even his closest friends insisted that his suffering must have been proof of hidden sin. They believed pain always meant guilt. They searched for reasons to explain what they could not understand, and the easiest explanation was to assume that I was angry with him. But they were wrong. The story of Job was never about me abandoning a faithful man. It was about demonstrating that faith can remain strong even when circumstances make no sense. Job could not see everything happening behind the scenes, but I could. What looked like punishment was actually part of a much greater purpose that extended beyond his understanding. How often do you do the same thing? Something painful happens, and before asking what I might be teaching you, you immediately assume I must be disappointed in you. Now look at my own son, Jesus. Did suffering mean that I was angry with him? No. Jesus lived a perfect life, Yet he experienced rejection, betrayal, humiliation, injustice, and unimaginable suffering. If pain automatically meant my anger, then how could my beloved son have walked such a difficult road? His suffering was not evidence of rejection. It became the pathway through which redemption entered the world. Pain, by itself, does not reveal my opinion of you. Sometimes pain is simply the place where my greatest purposes begin to unfold. Think also about Paul. He faithfully preached the gospel, yet he was imprisoned, beaten, shipwrecked, misunderstood, and opposed almost everywhere he went. If anyone judged Paul's life only by his hardships, they might conclude that I had abandoned him. Yet Paul understood something deeper. He knew that my strength becomes most visible in human weakness. His trials never proved my absence. They became opportunities for my power to shine through him. This is where many people confuse two very different things: punishment and discipline. Punishment seeks to satisfy justice for wrongdoing. Discipline seeks to develop maturity through love. There is an enormous difference. Imagine a loving father teaching his child to ride a bicycle. The child falls. The father does not throw the bicycle away and declare, "You have failed." Instead, he gently lifts the child, wipes away the tears, explains what went wrong, and encourages another attempt. The scraped knees were never the father's goal. Growth was. That is how I work in your life. When I correct you, I do not do it to shame you. I do it because I refuse to leave you unchanged. My correction is always guided by love, never by cruelty. The writer of Hebrews reminds you that a loving father disciplines the children he loves. Discipline is not evidence that you have been rejected. It is often evidence that you belong to me. A father who truly loves his child does not ignore destructive habits. He patiently teaches, guides, and protects because he sees the person's future, not just today's behavior. But the enemy works differently. Notice the difference between my voice and his. When I correct you, I point to a specific area that needs healing and then offer grace to help you change. The enemy, however, condemns your entire identity. He tells you that because you failed, you are a failure. Because you sinned, you are beyond forgiveness. Because you struggle, you are unworthy of my love. That is not my voice. I say, "Come back to me." He says, "Stay away because you are too broken." I say, "There is still hope." He says, "Nothing will ever change." I speak with conviction that leads to restoration. He speaks with condemnation that leads to despair. My child, never confuse those two voices. Yes, there will be moments when I lovingly reveal attitudes, choices, or habits that need to change. But I never expose your weakness simply to leave you in shame. I reveal what is broken because I desire to heal it. Every correction I bring into your life carries an invitation to grow closer to me, not further away. So the next time hardship enters your life, resist the temptation to immediately conclude that I am angry with you. Instead, come into my presence with an open heart. Ask me, "Lord, what do you want to teach me? How can I become more like you through this season?" Those questions open the door to wisdom instead of fear. Remember this truth, my beloved child. I correct because I love. The enemy condemns you because he wants you to give up. Never measure my love by the amount of pain you experience. Measure it by the cross, where my love was fully revealed once and for all. Now that you understand the difference between punishment and loving discipline, there is another trap that quietly steals the joy and peace I desire for you. It is a trap that has nothing to do with your suffering and everything to do with looking at someone else's journey instead of the one I have lovingly prepared for you. My beloved child, one of the quietest dangers to your faith is not always suffering or persecution. Sometimes it is something far more subtle. It begins with a single glance at someone else's life, a single comparison, a single thought that whispers, "Why not me?" You may not even realize it is happening. You scroll through social media and see smiling families, successful businesses, beautiful homes, growing ministries, dream vacations, and stories of answered prayers. Someone your age just bought a house. Someone younger has already built a successful career. Another couple announces the birth of their first child while you are still praying for a family. Someone else's ministry seems to be touching thousands while you wonder if your quiet acts of faith matter at all. Little by little, your eyes move away from the life I have given you and become fixed on the lives of others. Comparison rarely announces itself as sin. It often disguises itself as inspiration. At first, you simply admire what someone else has. But if you are not careful, admiration slowly becomes dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction becomes envy. Envy hardens into bitterness. Bitterness gives birth to doubt, and before long, doubt quietly creates distance between your heart and mine. Do you see how dangerous that path can become? The problem is not that someone else has been blessed. The problem begins when you believe their blessing somehow diminishes what I have prepared for you. Remember Saul and David. Saul was chosen to be king, yet instead of faithfully fulfilling the assignment I had given him, he became consumed by David's success. Every victory David experienced felt like a personal attack. Every song celebrating David sounded like an insult to Saul. His comparison poisoned his heart. Instead of becoming the leader I called him to be, he spent his energy chasing the person he feared. Comparison stole his peace long before it stole his kingdom. David, on the other hand, understood something different. Even after being anointed as the future king, he returned to tending sheep. He did not force the timing. He did not fight to seize the throne before I opened the door. He trusted my plan, even when it required years of waiting. My child, David's strength was not that he never waited. His strength was that he trusted me while he waited. Now think about Peter and John. After my resurrection, Peter looked at John and asked what would happen to him. It was a very human question. He wanted to compare his future with someone else's. But I answered him with words that still matter today. What is that to you? You follow me. Those words remain true for you as well. Why are you measuring your journey by someone else's assignment? Why do you expect your story to unfold according to another person's timeline? I never called you to copy another life. I called you to faithfully live the one I lovingly designed for you. Imagine two trees planted side by side. One grows quickly and reaches impressive heights within a few years. The other grows much more slowly. If the slower tree constantly compared itself to the taller one, it might believe something was wrong. Yet beneath the surface, its roots could be growing deeper and stronger. Years later, when powerful storms arrive, the tree with deeper roots remains standing while the faster-growing tree struggles to survive. Growth cannot always be measured by what people see. The world celebrates visible success. I often celebrate invisible faithfulness. Some of my greatest works happen where no audience applauds. A mother faithfully praying for her children. A father quietly provides for his family with integrity. A young believer choosing honesty when dishonesty would be easier. A person forgiving someone who never apologized. These victories may never become headlines, but heaven sees every one of them. The enemy wants you to believe that if your life does not look impressive, it is not meaningful. That is another lie. I have never measured your worth by your income, your followers, your accomplishments, your house, your age, or the size of your ministry. I look at your heart. I see your faithfulness when no one else notices. I see the prayers you whisper when no one is listening. I see every act of obedience that the world overlooks. So how do you break free from comparison? Begin by thanking me for what I have already placed in your life instead of focusing on what has not yet arrived. Gratitude changes the direction of your heart. It reminds you that my blessings are already present, even if they look different from what you expected. Next, spend less time measuring yourself against people and more time measuring your life against my word. Human standards constantly change, but my truth remains the same yesterday, today, and forever. Finally, remember that every person carries battles you cannot see. The smiling faces you admire may be hiding deep pain. A successful career may come with loneliness. The beautiful family may still be praying through hidden struggles. You only see the highlights of another person's story, while I see every chapter of every life. So stop asking why someone else's journey looks easier. Instead, ask me how I want to use your journey to shape you into the person I created you to become. My beloved child, your calling is too valuable to waste chasing someone else's. Every season, every delay, every closed door, and every unexpected turn has been woven together with purpose. Trust the path I have chosen for you, even when it looks different from the paths around you. And sometimes, those unexpected closed doors become the greatest evidence of my protection. You may grieve opportunities that never happened, relationships that ended, or dreams that changed. But what if some of the greatest miracles in your life were not the doors I opened, but the ones I lovingly kept closed? That is what I want to show you next. My beloved child, one of the hardest truths for the human heart to accept is this: you naturally celebrate the doors I open, but you often resent the doors I close. When an opportunity appears, you call it a blessing. When an opportunity disappears, you question, my goodness. Yet many of the greatest miracles in your life will never be recognized because they come disguised as closed doors. Think about how often you have prayed, Lord, please let this work out. You prayed for a relationship to last. You prayed for a particular job. You prayed to move to a certain place. You prayed for plans that seemed perfect in your own eyes. Then the answer came, and it was not the one you hoped for. The relationship ended. The interview led nowhere. The opportunity vanished. The dream slipped through your fingers. In those moments, disappointment filled your heart because you could only see the door closing. You could not yet see what that closed door was protecting you from. My child, I see every road long before you ever take your first step. I know where every choice leads. I know every conversation you have not yet had, every danger you cannot yet recognize, every blessing waiting beyond the horizon, and every trap hidden beneath what appears attractive today. You see one chapter, I see the entire story. That is why my love sometimes says no. Many people imagine that love always gives what is requested, but a wise father does not hand his child everything the child desires. If a little child reached toward a blazing fire, would a loving parent smile and step aside? Of course not. The child might cry when being pulled away, believing the parent ruined something enjoyable. Yet years later, the child understands that the refusal was actually protection. You often respond the same way when I close a door. You only see the opportunity you lost. I see the pain you avoided. Remember Paul. He desired to preach the gospel in Asia, and from a human perspective, it seemed like a wonderful plan. After all, sharing my truth is always a noble purpose. Yet my spirit prevented him from going there at that time. Imagine how confusing that must have been. Paul was not trying to run away from my will. He was trying to serve me faithfully. Still, I closed the door. Why? Because I was directing him toward another assignment that would shape the spread of the gospel in ways he could not yet imagine. What appeared to be an interruption was actually divine direction. Then, think about Balaam. As he traveled down a road that looked perfectly clear to him, his donkey suddenly stopped. Balaam became frustrated because he believed something was blocking his progress. What he could not see was the angel standing in the path ahead. The obstacle that angered him was actually the very thing preserving his life. How often have you become frustrated with delays, interruptions, and unexpected obstacles without realizing they were protecting you from dangers you never saw? Consider Jonah. He believed running away was the better choice. He thought he knew where his own path should lead. But every attempt to escape my purpose only brought greater storms. It was only after surrendering to my direction that he finally found the place where my plan could unfold. Sometimes the closed door is not punishment. Sometimes it is. My invitation to stop running toward what seems easier and begin walking toward what is truly better. And then there is Joseph. When his brothers sold him into slavery, every visible door slammed shut. His family was gone. His freedom disappeared. His dreams seemed impossible. If Joseph had judged his future by that single moment, he would have believed his life had been destroyed forever. But what looked like betrayal became transportation. Egypt was never the end of Joseph's story. It was the place where I positioned him to save countless lives during a coming famine. The closed doors behind him became the very path that led him to the open door I had prepared all along. My child, you often ask me to give you everything you want. But have you ever wondered what your life would become if I answered every request exactly as you imagined? What if I had allowed every relationship to continue, even the ones that would eventually wound your heart? What if I had given you every promotion before your character was ready? What if I had opened every door that looked exciting but quietly led you away from my purpose? Would those answers truly have been blessings? Or would they have slowly become burdens you were never meant to carry? That is why my wisdom is greater than your expectations. There will be moments when you stand before a closed door with tears in your eyes, believing you have lost something precious. But one day you may look back and quietly whisper, "Thank you, Lord, for saying no." Not because the disappointment was pleasant, but because my protection proved greater than your plans. Always remember the difference between temporary disappointment and permanent protection. Temporary disappointment hurts your emotions for a season. Permanent protection preserves your future for a lifetime. Trust me enough to believe that not every unanswered prayer is a missed blessing. Sometimes it is one of the greatest expressions of my love. The next time a door closes, instead of immediately asking, "Lord, why did you take this away?" try asking, "Lord, what are you protecting me from that I cannot yet see?" That question will not remove every disappointment overnight, but it will help your heart remain open to my wisdom instead of becoming trapped in bitterness. My beloved child, I never close a door simply to leave you standing in darkness. When I close one path, I am already preparing another. Even when you cannot yet see where it leads, you can trust the one who does. But there is another battlefield that often causes even greater suffering than closed doors or delayed answers. It is not happening around you, it is happening inside your own mind. The greatest struggle is often not against your circumstances, but against the thoughts that quietly shape how you see yourself, your future, and even me. Let me show you how to win that battle. My beloved child, there is a battle taking place in your life that no one else can fully see. It is not fought with weapons, loud voices, or visible enemies. It happens quietly inside your mind. Long before fear changes your actions, it changes your thoughts. Long before discouragement steals your joy, it whispers to your heart. That is why some of your greatest struggles are not happening around you, they are happening within you. The enemy understands something that many people overlook. If he cannot change who I am, he will try to change how you think about me. If he cannot steal my promises, he will try to convince you they are not meant for you. If he cannot separate you from my love, he will attempt to fill your mind with enough confusion that you begin walking away on your own. Have you noticed how quickly one negative thought can become an entire conversation inside your head? You make one mistake, and suddenly your mind says, "You'll never get this right." One prayer goes unanswered, and another voice whispers, "God isn't listening." A relationship ends, and your thoughts begin telling you, "No one will ever truly love you." A financial struggle lasts longer than expected, and fear quietly asks, "What if things never get better?" These thoughts rarely arrive all at once. They come one at a time, patiently building a story that feels true simply because you have repeated it so often. That is how overthinking grows. Overthinking is not simply thinking too much. It is allowing fear to become louder than truth. It is replaying yesterday's failures while forgetting my faithfulness. It is trying to solve tomorrow's problems before tomorrow even arrives. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with stones. Every fearful thought you choose to believe adds another stone. Every anxious prediction becomes another weight on your shoulders. After a while, you are exhausted not because life has become impossible, but because you are carrying burdens I never asked you to carry. My child, I never intended for fear to become your closest companion. Yet I know anxiety feels real. Your heart races, your thoughts refuse to slow down. At night, when everything becomes quiet, your mind becomes louder than ever. You replay conversations. You imagine worst-case scenarios. You create problems that have not happened and may never happen. Then, before the new day even begins, you already feel defeated. That is why my word tells you in Romans 12 to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Notice that I do not begin with changing your circumstances. I begin by changing the way you think. Transformation starts inside before it becomes visible outside. Many people spend years praying, "Lord, change my situation," while ignoring the battlefield inside their own minds. But listen carefully, my beloved child. A peaceful mind can survive difficult circumstances. A fearful mind can turn even peaceful circumstances into constant worry. The greatest prison is often not the one surrounding your body. It is the one imprisoning your thoughts. This is why I also remind you in Ephesians 6 to put on the full armor of God. You are not only living through ordinary challenges, there is a spiritual battle taking place. Not every thought that enters your mind deserves to stay there. Not every voice speaking into your heart is speaking my truth. The enemy loves planting seeds of fear. I'll never recover. I'm too broken. I've wasted my life. I'm not good enough. I'll always be alone. These are not my words. I have never spoken hopelessness over your life. I have never called you worthless. I have never told you that your future is finished. The enemy speaks to imprison. I speak to restore. That is why Paul wrote in 2 Corinthians that you are to take every thought captive and make it obedient to Christ. Notice what he did not say. He did not say to accept every thought. He did not say to believe every emotion. He did not say to obey every fear. He said to take those thoughts captive. Think about that image for a moment. If someone dangerous entered your home, you would not invite them to stay. You would remove them immediately. Yet many people allow destructive thoughts to live inside their minds for years without questioning them. They decorate those lies, make room for them, and eventually begin calling them truth. My child, learn to ask a simple question whenever a fearful thought appears. Does this sound like my voice? If the thought produces hopelessness without hope, if it fills you with shame without grace, if it pushes you away from me instead of drawing you closer, then it is not speaking my heart. Replace it with my truth. When fear says, "You are alone," remember that I have promised never to leave you nor forsake you. When anxiety says, "You cannot handle tomorrow," remember that I give daily bread, not fear for the future. When shame says, "Your past defines you," remember that my mercy is new every morning. Renewing your mind is not pretending problems do not exist. It is choosing to let my truth become greater than your fear. Start each day with my word before you begin listening to the endless voices of the world. Spend time in prayer before giving your attention to headlines designed to create anxiety. Guard what enters your heart through your eyes and ears, because whatever you feed your mind will eventually shape your faith. The more you fill your heart with my promises, the less room fear has to grow. This is not something that happens in a single day. Just as a garden requires continual care, your mind requires daily renewal. Some days you will have to replace the same fearful thought again and again. Do not become discouraged. Every time you choose truth over lies, you are becoming stronger than you were yesterday. Remember this, my beloved child. Your greatest battle is rarely against your circumstances. More often, it is against the lies trying to define those circumstances. Win the battle in your mind, and you will discover a peace that the world cannot take away. And when your mind begins to change, something even more important begins to change as well. You stop asking me to make life easier, and you begin allowing me to make your character stronger. That is where true transformation begins, and that is what I want to show you next. My beloved child, there is something I want you to understand that can completely change the way you see every hardship in your life. Many people spend years asking me to make life easier. They pray for fewer problems, fewer disappointments, fewer obstacles, and fewer painful seasons. Those prayers come from sincere hearts, and I hear every one of them. But there are times when I answer those prayers in a way they never expect. Instead of removing every challenge, I begin strengthening the person who is walking through it. You often ask, "Lord, how do I escape this?" I gently ask, "My child, what are you becoming because of this?" Those are two very different questions. The world measures success by comfort. It says that if life is becoming easier, then everything must be going well. But my kingdom measures something far greater than comfort. I am far more concerned with your character than your convenience. Comfort may make you feel good for a season, but character will sustain you for a lifetime. Imagine a blacksmith shaping a piece of steel. The metal does not become stronger by remaining untouched. It must pass through intense heat. It must be shaped with repeated blows. To someone watching from the outside, the process may seem harsh. but the blacksmith never strikes the steel to destroy it. Every strike has a purpose. Every moment in the fire is preparing it for something greater than it could have imagined. My beloved child, there are seasons when your life feels like that furnace. You wonder why everything suddenly became so difficult. You ask why the pressure seems heavier than before. Yet I see what you cannot see. I know the strength I am building within you. The pressure is not meant to break you. It is preparing you to carry what I have planned for your future. Look at Moses. When I first called him, he was insecure, afraid, and convinced he was the wrong person. He wanted immediate answers and quick reassurance. Yet I did not send him directly from the burning bush into the fulfillment of every promise. Before he would lead an entire nation, he had to learn dependence, obedience, patience, and humility. Those lessons were not learned in moments of comfort. They were learned through years of trusting me, one step at a time. Think about David. People often remember the giant named Goliath, but they forget the lonely years before David ever wore a crown. Long before he became king, he faithfully cared for sheep where almost no one noticed him. He faced lions and bears when there was no audience to applaud his courage. Even after Samuel anointed him, David did not immediately sit on the throne. He endured rejection, misunderstanding, and years of running for his life. Why? Because the crown required a character that only those hidden years could produce. Now remember Joseph. If I had placed him in Egypt's palace the day I gave him those dreams, pride would have ruled his heart instead of wisdom. Instead, Joseph experienced betrayal, slavery, false accusations, and imprisonment. None of those experiences looked like success. Yet every one of them quietly shaped the leader he would one day become. The prison became part of the preparation. The waiting became part of the wisdom. The pain became part of the purpose. Even my beloved son, Jesus, spent time in the wilderness before beginning his public ministry. After his baptism, he did not immediately step into crowds performing miracles. First came solitude. First came temptation. First came testing. If the wilderness was part of my son's journey, why should you assume it has no place in yours? Do not misunderstand me, my child. I do not delight in your suffering. I am not searching for ways to make your life difficult, but I also refuse to sacrifice your eternal growth simply to provide temporary comfort. There are blessings that only a mature heart can carry. There are responsibilities that only a humble spirit can handle. There are doors I long to open for you, but I love you too much to open them before you are ready. This is where many people become discouraged. They spend all their energy asking, how can I get out of this season? But rarely do they ask, Lord, what do you want to grow inside me during this season? That second question changes everything. Instead of seeing hardship as an interruption, you begin seeing it as preparation. Instead of measuring your life only by visible success, you begin measuring it by spiritual growth. Instead of asking whether your circumstances have changed, you begin asking whether your heart has changed. Ask yourself today, are you becoming more patient than you were last year? More forgiving? More compassionate? More faithful? More humble? More dependent on me? These are the victories heaven celebrates. The world applauds promotions, wealth, recognition, and influence. Those things are not wrong, but they are not the highest measure of a successful life. A person may gain everything the world admires while quietly losing peace, integrity, and intimacy with me. Never allow temporary success to become more valuable than lasting holiness. Holiness is not about appearing perfect before other people. It is about allowing my Spirit to transform your heart day by day until your thoughts, your words, your decisions, and your love begin reflecting mine. That transformation is the greatest miracle I desire to perform within you. So when the next difficult season arrives, do not immediately assume something has gone wrong. Pause for a moment and ask me, Lord, what kind of person are you shaping me to become? You may not receive every answer immediately, but you will begin seeing your trials through the eyes of faith instead of fear. Remember this truth, my beloved child. I am not simply preparing blessings for you. I am preparing you for the blessings. I am not only changing your circumstances, I am changing you. And the person you become through this journey will be one of the greatest gifts I ever give you. As you begin to understand that your life is about more than comfort, another beautiful truth begins to unfold. You start realizing that every season, even the painful ones, has a purpose that reaches far beyond what you can currently see. Let me show you how I weave every chapter of your life together into a story filled with meaning. My beloved child, one of the greatest questions people ask during difficult seasons is, Lord, what is the purpose of all this? When life unfolds according to your plans, purpose seems obvious. But when dreams are delayed, relationships end, opportunities disappear, or unexpected pain enters your life, purpose becomes much harder to see. In those moments, you may begin believing that time is being wasted. But I want you to hear me clearly today. Not one season of your life is meaningless when you place it in my hands. Long before you were born, I understood that your journey would include moments of joy and moments of sorrow, seasons of abundance and seasons of waiting. That is why my word says in Ecclesiastes that there is a time for everything under heaven, a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to lose and a time to gain. I created the seasons because every season accomplishes something different within you. The problem is that you often judge a season before it has finished its work. You celebrate spring because flowers appear. You enjoy summer because everything seems alive. But few people appreciate winter. They look at the bare trees and assume nothing is happening. Yet beneath the frozen ground, unseen work continues. Roots grow deeper. The tree conserves strength. It prepares for the life that will return in its proper time. Your spiritual life often follows the same pattern. Just because you cannot see visible progress does not mean nothing is happening. Some of my greatest work takes place beneath the surface. Think again about Joseph. There were moments when Joseph probably wondered if his dreams had been forgotten forever. A prison cell certainly did not look like the fulfillment of a promise. Every year behind bars could have felt like another year wasted. But from my perspective, not a single day was wasted. Every disappointment taught him wisdom. Every injustice developed compassion. Every delay strengthened his dependence upon me. When the day finally came for Joseph to stand before Pharaoh, he was not simply the same young man who had dreamed of greatness. He had become someone capable of carrying great responsibility with humility. What looked like wasted years were actually years of preparation. Now think about Naomi. She experienced heartbreaking loss. She lost her husband. She lost her sons. Her future seemed empty, and she believed her best days were behind her. She even changed the way she described herself because pain had convinced her that her story was over. Yet while Naomi believed she had reached the end, I was quietly writing a new beginning. Through Ruth's faithfulness, through unexpected acts of kindness, and through ordinary moments that seemed insignificant, I was weaving together a story that would eventually become part of the very family line leading to the birth of Jesus. Naomi could not see the full picture while living through the pain. Neither can you. Ruth also teaches an important lesson. She left behind what was familiar without knowing exactly where the journey would lead. She simply chose faithfulness one step at a time. She did not know that ordinary acts of obedience would place her in the center of my greater purpose. Many people are waiting for extraordinary instructions while ignoring the ordinary acts of faithfulness I have already placed before them. David's life tells the same story. Before anyone called him king, he faithfully served where he was. He worshipped me in lonely fields. He protected sheep that belonged to someone else. He honored me long before crowds celebrated him. Those quiet years were not a delay. They were preparing. My child, this is one of the greatest misunderstandings people have about purpose. They believe purpose only begins when something impressive happens. They think purpose starts with the promotion, the marriage, the ministry, the breakthrough. The dream was fulfilled, but purpose often begins much earlier in the hidden moments when no one else is watching. The purpose is not waiting at the finish line. Purpose is present in every faithful step along the journey. That is why my word in Romans reminds you that I work all things together for the good of those who love me and are called according to my purpose. Notice that I did not say all things are good. Some experiences are genuinely painful. Some losses are heartbreaking. Some disappointments leave deep scars. But I am able to take every piece of your story, even the broken pieces, and weave them together into something beautiful. You often see waste. I see preparation. You see loss. I see redirection. You see failure. I see formation. That interview you did not receive may have protected you from a workplace that would have slowly drained your joy. That relationship that ended may have spared you years of heartache you could not yet imagine. That season of loneliness may be teaching you to build your identity in me before placing it in another person. That unexpected setback may be developing wisdom you will one day use to help someone else survive their own difficult season. Nothing surrendered to me is ever wasted. So how do you begin discovering my purpose in the season you are living in right now? First, stop asking only, when will this season end? Begin asking, Lord, what is this season teaching me? Second, remain faithful in the small responsibilities I have already given you. Many people miss the next door because they become distracted by waiting for a larger one. Third, trust that understanding often comes after obedience, not before it. You will not always know why I am leading you a certain way. Sometimes clarity arrives only after you have taken the next faithful step. Finally, remember that my purpose is always greater than your comfort. My highest desire is not simply to make your life easier, but to shape you into someone who reflects my love, my wisdom, and my heart to the world around you. My beloved child, do not despise the season you are in today. Whether you are celebrating, grieving, waiting, rebuilding, or simply trying to take one faithful step after another, I am present in every moment. Every chapter has meaning. Every season has a purpose. Every tear can become part of a testimony that brings hope to someone else. And that leads to an even greater question. Once you begin understanding that your life has purpose, what are you meant to do with it? I did not create you merely to survive from one season to the next. I created you to become a light that helps others find their way. Let me show you what it truly means to live on a mission. My beloved child, now that you have begun to understand that every season of your life has a purpose, I want to reveal something even greater. I did not create you simply to survive until tomorrow. I did not save you merely so you could live a comfortable life. I created you with a mission. From the very beginning, my desire has never been only to bless you, but also to make you a blessing to others. Many people spend their entire lives asking one question: Lord, how can you make my life better? It seems like a reasonable prayer, but it is often incomplete. A more powerful question is this: Lord, how can you use my life to make someone else's life better? There is a tremendous difference between living for comfort and living with purpose. The world tells you to build the safest life possible. It teaches you to protect your time, protect your possessions, protect your reputation, and avoid anything that feels uncomfortable. But my kingdom has always moved in the opposite direction. Love gives. Faith serves. Hope reaches outward. I never intended for your faith to remain hidden inside church walls or private prayers alone. I intended it to become visible through the way you love people, forgive people, encourage people, and care for people who have no one else to help them. When I gave the Great Commission, I did not speak only to pastors, missionaries, or church leaders. I spoke to everyone who follows me. I invited ordinary people to carry extraordinary hope into an ordinary world. That calling still belongs to you today. Perhaps you hear the word calling and immediately imagine standing behind a pulpit, traveling across nations, or leading thousands of people. But my child, calling is much deeper than a title. Calling begins wherever you choose to reflect my heart. A mother patiently raising her children with love is living her calling. A father choosing integrity when dishonesty would be easier is living his calling. A student refusing to join cruelty and instead showing kindness is living their calling. A neighbor bringing a meal to someone who is grieving is living their calling. A friend who listens without judging is living their calling. Never underestimate what I can do through ordinary acts of obedience. Remember the Good Samaritan. Many people walked past the wounded man. Perhaps they were busy, perhaps they had important responsibilities, perhaps they convinced themselves someone else would stop. But one ordinary traveler chose compassion over convenience. He interrupted his own plans to care for someone in need. That simple act became one of the greatest examples of love ever recorded. Notice something important. The Samaritan did not change the entire world in one afternoon. He changed one person's world. Sometimes you become discouraged because you believe your impact is too small. You think, I cannot reach thousands of people. I do not have great influence. I do not have special gifts. But who told you that faithfulness must always look impressive? One encouraging conversation may keep someone from giving up. One sincere prayer may strengthen a heart that feels completely alone. One act of forgiveness may heal a family that has been broken for years. One invitation to hope may change the direction of another person's life forever. You measure influence by numbers. I measure influence by faithfulness. Think about Peter. He was an ordinary fisherman. He had weaknesses, fears, and failures. He even denied knowing me during my greatest hour of suffering, yet I did not define Peter by his worst moment. I restored him and gave him a mission. I did not ask Peter to spend the rest of his life regretting his past. I simply said, feed my sheep. In other words, take the love you have received from me and give it to others. Now think about Paul. Before encountering me, he believed he was serving the truth while actually hurting my people. His entire direction changed when he encountered my grace. After that, every hardship he endured became an opportunity to bring hope to someone else. Neither Peter nor Paul lived comfortable lives. They lived meaningful lives. There is a difference. Many Christians spend years praying for comfort. Few pray for courage. Many ask me to remove every challenge. Few ask me to use every challenge for my glory. My beloved child, comfort can make your life easier for a season. Purpose gives your life meaning forever. Do not misunderstand me. I delight in blessing you. I rejoice when you experience joy, peace, and provision. But my blessings were never meant to stop with you. They were always meant to flow through you into the lives of others. Imagine a river. Flowing water brings life wherever it goes. But water that never flows eventually becomes stagnant. Your faith is the same. When you continually receive my love but never share it, your spiritual life becomes stagnant. But when you freely give encouragement, compassion, generosity, forgiveness, and hope, your faith becomes alive in ways you never imagined. So what does your mission look like today? It may be sending a message to someone who feels forgotten. It may be praying for a coworker before they ever ask. It may be forgiving to someone who never apologized. It may be speaking hope into a discouraged friend. It may simply be smiling at someone who has not felt seen in a long time. Do not wait for a dramatic assignment before obeying me. Most extraordinary lives are built through thousands of ordinary moments of faithfulness. Every morning, ask me one simple question. Lord, who can I love today the way you have loved me? If you begin living that prayer, you will discover that purpose is not hidden somewhere far away. It is waiting in the people I place in your path each day. My beloved child, you were never created merely to survive another week, earn another paycheck, or count the years until life is over. You were created to reflect my light in a world that desperately needs hope. Every act of love, every quiet sacrifice, every faithful step matters more than you know because I see every one of them. And one day, when you look back over your entire journey, you will begin to understand something that is difficult to see right now. Every silent season, every painful delay, every closed door, every battle, every lesson, and every act of faithfulness was connected by my hand all along. Let me show you what you will finally see when that day comes. My beloved child, if you have stayed with me until this moment, I want you to pause for just a little while and look back over your life. Not with regret, not with fear, but through the eyes of faith. Think about the seasons when heaven seemed silent. Remember the prayers you whispered through tears, wondering if I was listening. Remember the days when waiting felt unbearable, when every answer seemed delayed and every step forward felt impossible. Think about the pain that made you question your strength, the doors that closed without explanation, the people who walked away, and the dreams that never unfolded the way you expected. At the time, those moments may have looked like scattered pieces with no meaning. But I was never looking at individual moments. I was writing an entire story. The silence taught you to trust my voice more than your emotions. The waiting taught you patience when the world demanded speed. The pain softened your heart so you could comfort others who would one day walk through similar valleys. The closed doors protected you from paths that would have taken you away from my best. The struggles strengthened your character. The calling gave your life meaning beyond your own comfort. Every season shaped your identity until you slowly became more like the person I created you to be. Nothing was random. Nothing escaped my attention. Nothing was wasted. Perhaps today there are still questions you cannot answer. Maybe you still do not understand why certain prayers remain unanswered or why certain chapters had to be so painful. My child, you do not have to understand everything in order to trust me. Faith has never been about having every answer. Faith is choosing to hold my hand even when you cannot yet see the road ahead. One day, whether in this life or in eternity, you will look back and see connections that are invisible today. You will recognize how one disappointment prepared you for a greater blessing. You will understand how one delay protected you from unnecessary heartache. You will see how one difficult season became the very testimony that gave someone else the courage to keep going. That is why I tell you again today, I never wasted a single tear when you cried. I never ignored a single prayer you prayed. I never overlooked a single act of obedience, even the ones no one else noticed. Every faithful step mattered because I was walking beside you through all of it. So from this day forward, trust me even when you cannot trace my plan. Stay faithful even when progress feels slow. Keep praying even when heaven seems quiet. Keep opening my word because I will continue speaking to your heart through it. Continue being a blessing to those around you even when you feel unnoticed, because love offered in my name is never wasted. And above all, my beloved child, do not quit. Do not surrender your faith 5 minutes before the breakthrough I have been preparing. Do not allow temporary discouragement to make you abandon an eternal purpose. Before you leave today, I invite you to spend a few quiet moments with me. Set aside every distraction and simply open your heart. Tell me your fears. Tell me your hopes. Tell me where you are struggling to trust. I have been listening all along, and I am listening even now. If this message has spoken to your heart, I would love for you to share your story in the comments. Tell others about a time when you thought I had said no, only to discover later that I was protecting you or preparing something better. Your testimony may become the very encouragement someone else needs today. And if this message has strengthened your faith, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and continue walking this journey with us. There are many more moments where we will open my word together, grow together, and discover the hope that never fails. Now go forward with confidence, my beloved child. Walk in peace, not because every question has been answered, but because you know the one who holds every answer. Walk in courage, not because the road will always be easy, but because you will never walk it alone. I have been with you all of yesterday. I am with you today, and I will already be waiting for you tomorrow. Go in my peace, and never forget this truth. I have always been working for your good, even when you could not yet see my hand.